This episode of the Red and White Podcast is brought to you by SaturdayMorningTailgate.com. Tailgate gear by folks who love tailgating. Check out SaturdayMorningTailgate.com and use the code REDWHITE15 for 15% off your entire purchase of all your tailgate gear. SaturdayMorningTailgate.com, REDWHITE15.
Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the. Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the ladder while you bring me up a shovel. I can do this all day. I can do this all night.
All right, folks, I'm back with another edition of the Red and White Podcast. Thanks as always for listening. And a little late this week, had a bunch of personal things going on and didn't get a chance to record, but I'm here now and should be a good one. So we lost to Cuse. I think the first thing it's kind of thrown a wet blanket on the entire. I don't know. There's a lot of momentum going into. Or a lot of excitement, rather, going to the Clemson game, and then, getting smacked down, and then, all right, we can rally, we can go to Cuse, win, but they lost, and Cuse jumped on them early, and that was tough. I mean, I think a lot of people are start to get down a little bit, which is weird because 10-2 is still out there, right? I mean, a great season is still available for State. State is still can be the second best team in the ACC. They started bad, and there's some stuff we can talk about, but I think the harshest realization, and it was for me too. And I spent some time talked to James Henderson after. I guess it was Sunday morning. We were going back and forth about it. And what basically came from that conversation was it's a 50-50 game. And despite how State fans viewed us and how they viewed Syracuse, the reality was Syracuse is probably about the same as we are. Their offense is a little bit more aggressive. They don't have a good defense. But they're a team that's improving. They're a team that's getting better. And we saw that, and it was essentially a 3-point game. They scored the late touchdown on Finley's interception, but for the most part, they jumped on us early. We came back, and it was a close game. And that's all right. Sometimes you win those, sometimes you lose them. It was a tough one on the road, and it's dampened a lot of spirits. And I don't think it should have. I think we have to take a look back and say, all right, we got excited because there is an opportunity in front of us. There still is. It's not the same opportunity, but the program is still getting better, and let's not all get crazy about it. I mean, most people had this team 7-5, 8-4, and a huge drop off and all this stuff before the season started, and they've only lost a few. They've lost 2 games, and there's still so much in front of them, and every game in front of them is winnable. So let's not get down, and I mean we should still be excited about it, man. There's still 4 or 5 games left, and 6 games count the bowl game. That State could still have a great season. 11-2 if you count the bowl game, whatever game that is. That's phenomenal. I mean, we won 10 games once, and I think we had to play 14 games that year. So let's not get crazy. I mean, this program is still very, very good. They're going to put some guys in the draft. All right, the momentum is still going the right direction. So let's keep going, man. Let's keep going with that. I'm still pumped. I'm still ready for Saturday. I'm still ready to play Florida State. I don't think we should all be down about it. I mean, State's 21 in the college football playoff rankings. That's pretty damn good for NC State. Let's be real. That's really good. And in theory, they should move up. If they play the way they're capable of playing, then in theory they should move up. Virginia, BC, and somebody else are ranked in the top 25. States beat both of them. Right? I don't think the polls mean a whole lot. People aren't paying attention. I imagine you ask the voters who Virginia lost to, they wouldn't say us. They probably just don't know. And I think that's, it goes all the way back to name and perception and all that stuff. I mean, but it's irrelevant right now, right? There's still plenty of football left. Still a lot of winnable football left. So let's be excited about it, man. I can't wait, right? Before we know it, season's going to be over, and we're going to be 8 months without football again, and that's going to be the shitty part. I talk to a couple of y'all, text me pretty routinely, but I'm going to address this conversation that I had with Ed in LA, and thanks for listening as always. Your last message said that this weekend will determine who this team's identity is and which direction they're going. They lose and they'll be 8-4, 7-5, and critics like me will point fingers and say that's who we are as a program. Win and a really good season can be salvaged. I don't think there's any salvaging it. There's still a really good season to be out there. And everybody had them pegged 7-5, 8-4 before the season. I mean, I think that's pretty common. Now, like the schedule and things have changed, and you kind of look at what is in front of us and how bad some of these teams are. So, that might have changed everybody's expectations, but we need to keep those in check a little bit. And we need to have a little bit of dose of reality of that. We are an 8-4, 7-5 program historically. We're trying to get to the next level there. And we can. I really believe that things are going in the right direction. And that we can take that next step. So, I don't know. I'm just... For everybody out there who has that gets very down on it and like, oh, well, here comes the wolf back again, or here, same old crap. Like, they're not a perfect team. We all know that, right? They have a lot of really good pieces, and maybe they don't utilize those pieces, or some of us don't think they utilize those pieces. I personally don't. I think there's definitely some areas they can improve on, but I think that you can say that by a lot of teams. And when you play another team like Syracuse is very close to us, and they're very talented, and their strengths line up poorly for our weaknesses. That's things like that happen, right? But I don't think it's the end of the world. There's still a lot of things to play for. Still a lot of improvement, a lot of momentum going in the right direction. And you're starting to see guys like Harmon step up a little bit, step up the level, right? I mean, unbelievable game. Maybe the best game I've seen from a wide receiver from NC State and since Torrey Holt, to be honest. And I think he might be the best wide receiver we've had since Torrey Holt. But that's probably a different conversation. So let's be excited about it. Let's be positive. Things are working in the right direction. There's still a lot to play for. Still a lot of good here, and the program is getting better. Speaking of wide receivers, you got to mention Steph Lewis out for the year. Really tough to see that one. I hope he gets the 6th year. I don't know if he will, but he's a good kid, and he's credit, by all accounts, to our current wide receivers working as hard as they do. Him and Harmon and some of these other guys, they look up to him, and I hope he recovers fast, and I hope they give him a 6th year. And if not, I hope he's successful whenever he does. I'm a big Steph Lewis fan. He's a good representative of NC State. I put out a tweet. I was watching the basketball game, and I'll kind of quickly talk about that. I love watching the game and listening to Pack Radio. like do the call. ESPN had them merged together. Obviously they didn't have announcers at our exhibition game. I wish every game was like that, or at least you had every game you had the chance to listen to them. They're obviously much more informed than most of the ESPN announcers we get. I was a big fan of that. I'd love to. Some startup out there needs to figure out a way to do that on the regular. I think that's really good. The other tweet I put out was, a team ever had an offensive and defensive players of the week and lost? And my man Alec Lower reminded me that, or reminded everybody that that's probably the most NC State thing ever. And it's true. I mean, Jermaine Pratt and Calvin Harmon were both ACC players of the week, and we lost that game, which is crazy. They're crazy talented. They're crazy good. And they're opening a lot of eyes. But regarding the basketball team, I'm jumping around. Sorry. It was enjoyable. I mean, they basically played the school for the blind. Can't take a whole lot from it. They played a ton of dudes, and it'll be a while before Keats probably has his rotation down. But it's fun, man. They have a bunch of guys that can play a bunch of different positions. And, you look out there and you see a bunch of long guys that can play and interchangeable parts. Man, that's fun. It should be fun. It should be fun to watch. Different style, too. So I'm just reading some of y'all's tweets. Again, the wet blanket has kind of put a little damper on people's emotions and excitement level. And it's reflected in the responses to my tweets here lately. Didn't get as many, but the ones that do, I appreciate you as always. Mark Blankenship. Got to pull out my most amazing stat by a college team. This is in response to my Players of the Week tweet. Much less the Wolfpack. Year after Rivers leaves, we were number 1 in total defense in the NCAA, outgained every single opponent in total yards, and had a losing record. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I think that was the Jay Davis year, so that probably sums up the most of it. But that is a insane stat. That is insane. Man, if those 2 years could have aligned, I mean, everybody's talked about it. If that Phillips senior year could have overlapped with Mario's freshman year, man, that was a hell of a team. Jody, going 3 and out in the first possession was not good. Lots of missed opportunities to make plays on the ball from a defensive standpoint. On several tackles, it looked like they could have tried to strip the ball but didn't. Great game for Pratt and Harmon. Yeah, a couple of those things. Going 3 out in the first possession was awful. I mean, it was run, 3rd and long. And you're like, come on, man. Like, you can't do that against a team that can score like this. And then when you don't have Ricky Person and Reggie Gillespie is clearly not healthy, like, you got to get away from this crap. They got to be more aggressive. I was really disappointed with the game planning. I think that was the most frustrating point. Like, you have guys that, all right, your running game's not good, right? So what do? You have to start going to the short passes, maybe throw some screens and throw some quicker slants. And get guys like Jacoby and Thayer Thomas involved a little bit more, and they always call it the, quote, extension of the run game, right? And they need to do that. Why aren't they doing that? I don't know. I mean, Drink is set on being a running team, which I guess makes sense coming from his Gus Malzahn pedigree, but they're not utilizing, in my opinion, the talent that they have. And I know that feels like a superfluous comment. Hey, they scored 41 and you lost, so it's not on the offense. I mean, Syracuse defense is not good, though, and that was the thing I was talking to James about is, you scored 41. I kept saying they scored 41. It's like, all right, Syracuse has given up 50-plus to teams like Western Michigan and I forgot who else they played. Just like Temple and UMass, and you're like, come on, man! Like, you're playing these. They've given up 40 to everybody. And when a school like Western Michigan scores more against the Cuse than you do, I mean, that's disappointing. I think there was an opportunity missed there from that standpoint. And I know the offense wasn't the problem, but it wasn't actually the answer. Especially when you know your defense isn't great and you're going to give up points to a team like Syracuse who can score on pretty much anybody. Right? You got to be more aggressive offensively. That's the part I don't agree with. And I think, this week you got to do the same thing. You can't come out slow against FSU. And here's why. They just got demoralized against Clemson. I mean, they just got throttled. 50-something to 3. The guys looked like they didn't care. There's rumors Francois is not going to start. He's quitting on the team. Those sorts of things. And their back is against the wall, and they're ready to collapse. State needs to come out and score fast. They need to jump on FSU and make them quit. They do. They need to make that statement. I think if you come out and they got a new quarterback, and maybe if Blackman starts, they might rally around him and come out a little slow. You're going to give them a little bit new life. And you don't want to do that. You want to come out there and just jump on them. And then you do that offensively. Because defensively still a struggle. And I know people are commenting on Ingle getting burnt, and they switched to the 3-2-6 and put Stephen Griffin in and played a little better and shut Syracuse down for a while. But I thought the safeties were out of position quite a bit. And I think they made some misreads, and it kind of leaves your nickelback and some of these guys alone. Yeah, I think that's a problem. Moorhead, I thought he'd be a little bit more game aware. I mean, that was always his strength. Now, he made some fantastic plays. He ran up and he caught Dungy on a 3rd and long scrambling and just made a great stop. And he made some really good plays, but also I think he made some questionable decisions that cost us. And people are going to immediately look at the nickelbacks and say, hey, look, that guy's getting burnt. And it's true. He got burned a couple times. But he's also playing towards expecting help. And I think our safeties have misread a few plays, and it's cost us. And it goes back to my question a couple weeks ago is bring back any 2 former state players. Who would you bring back? And my immediate thought was Earl Wolf or Adrian Wilson, just 2 of the best safeties we've had in a long time. And they wouldn't have missed some of those plays. I mean, I think that you got to be more situationally aware as a safety because your cornerbacks are relying on you. And again, in that game, especially speaking of cornerbacks, they didn't have McLeod. That doesn't help. He's your best corner. And Tayshawn Smith played pretty well, actually. I thought. I don't think he played bad. I think Syracuse made some plays. You give them credit for doing that. But I feel like there's some opportunities they should have capitalized on. And State made mistakes. I mean, they're going to make mistakes. Like I said, they're not perfect. So that was a longish your question, Jody. But yeah, a lot of missed opportunities on the defensive side. I agree. I don't know about stripping the ball. It's just not really the mentality they have, and especially when you're going solo, I feel like that leads to a lot of missed tackles and arm tackles. But I think that's a coaching thing. I think that's probably strategy. Great game for Pratt and Harmon. Agreed. Pratt was, 14 solo tackles is unbelievable. He's so good. He probably should have gotten more playing time last year. He got a lot of playing time, but probably should have started last year. But you could see it. We've been talking about it for a while now. He's really good, and he'll be playing on Sundays. Hammer 28. I think it's an easy game plan for opposing teams. They will pick on our secondary. We're going to make Wake Forest look like Clemson. I think Dortch will give us trouble. Honestly, don't know how secondary is young every year. Like that's what they said last year. Yeah, I agree. Dortch will give us trouble. We talked about the secondary a little bit. They're going to use Stephen Griffin more, I think, in passing situations. I'm curious if they don't end up sliding Ingle to safety or something along those lines. He's really good in run coverage, and he's really smart. He really has an understanding of what's happening. Sometimes to his downfall because he expects everybody else to be on the same page. I don't know, McLeod's good. Why are they young every year? I don't know. We've had some attrition. Bryce Banks and I forgot who else was. There was another corner I thought that was in the program and left. But yeah, I do think it's an easy game plan for opposing teams, and that's the problem. That's what's. You got to be more creative. I've been saying this for years. You got to be more creative when you don't clearly have more talent. You have to be more creative. And I think I wish they would go more air raid-ish, more spread. You don't have a great running game. Person's hurt, etc. Go more spread, right? Go a little bit more aggressive. Take some more deep shots. Maybe play a little bit more tempo, especially. Get teams back on their heels, and you got to equalize the talent gap and equalize, or maybe leverage what you have, the strength that you have. I think that's. I don't know. I agree. Something's not right with the game plan. It might be different next year. And Person's a sophomore, and you have Jameis Griffin and Zonovan Knight. I think those guys are another dimension, and that would be, you could run the hell out of the ball with three guys, but again, they're going to be freshmen next year, so you're going to need some, again, superior offensive line play, and you're going to need some creativity to, mask some of these things and cover up some of the holes, because there are holes. There's going to be holes. It's just natural. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd love to see a little bit different offensive scheme. I know it's not Doran's style. He wants to be balanced and running, but I think they need to lean more pass heavy. I'd look at what younger guys are doing. I think I mentioned it before. Luttrell at North Texas, right? His sort of offensive scheme. He was an offensive coordinator before he was the head coach. And I know people hate the name, but Kendall Briles, his offenses are doing well. You just look at these teams that can score a lot, right? And they're maybe not the biggest brand name teams. And I think that's what you need to do. I think that's what State needs to leverage a little bit more. Now, season's almost over, so we could be beating a dead horse here, but it is what it is. Could just be me, but I feel like losing to Clemson, a lot of the excitement around the season was gone. This is from Micah. Yeah, Mike, I agree. I already talked about that. I just think it's a kind of a natural progression. I think you look at the schedule. Everybody expected this stretch of games to be tough. Now, maybe people's expectations change and excitement, and but this team has flaws, and I think everybody has to realize that. But they're still good. There's still a lot out there to play for. So I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to Saturday. I think it's gonna be fun. I think they need to jump on FSU quick. Jump on them quick, and don't give them any hope. Because you give them hope, and you can kind of see that rally, and it almost reminds me. It would be a similar situation to when State beat Syracuse. Was this Doran's first year? Right, they were 0-6 or something, and then they went up to Syracuse, and Farrah McKeever's interception return for a TD, and sparks a 6-game winning streak or something like that. I think it was a 6-game winning streak, and that was the piece that Doran pointed to, and everybody pointed to, like, there we go, we're starting to turn it around, and things like that. I don't want to give FSU that moment. I want to beat them. I want to beat them down. I think we should. I think we have the pieces to do it. But we haven't played perfect games. We haven't played really, really good games yet. And, my confidence in the scheme to do that, it's not super high. And I know a lot of it is execution, right? There's some plays in that Syracuse game, particularly like the C.J. Riley end around. If they connect on that, that's a big play. I mean, he was wide open on his sideline, but he drops the pitch, and you kind of put that on coaching. As fans put that on coaching, but it was actually execution. And if they execute some of these plays, then it's a different ball game. But there are some parts like the first possession of that Syracuse game where that wasn't execution. That was just conservative bullshit play calling, and I don't want to see that. I want to see aggressive. I want us to be aggressive. I think we should. That's how we should play. When you have NFL talent at the wide receiver and you have an NFL quarterback, come on, use them. Offensive line is second in the country in sacks allowed. They're giving up. Nobody's touching Finley. Let's take some shots, man. Stop pussyfooting around with a hurt running back and a bunch of guys who are not running backs. And I don't know, man. Just jump on FSU and they should win. But if you let them hang around, or you let them build up any kind of confidence, then that's bad. I think that's bad news. And it could be a long afternoon if that's the case. I'm curious if Francois starts, and it sounds like mixed opinions if you read the FSU folks. Blackman starts. Blackman, not very good, but came in 2 years ago against us and beat us and played really well, and you're like, this guy's a bum. How do we let this guy beat us? So there's no telling. I had no idea what's going to happen. Their offensive line is awful. I think everybody's kind of made that. Everybody kind of knows that. So we need to take advantage of that. Their defensive line's pretty good. A really good pass rusher. So I'd be curious to see how that matchup plays out. But I want to see an aggressive offense, man. I want to see some points on the board. I want to see them jump on FSU. And, we'll come out with a win there. And we'll be 6-2, and everybody can be excited again. 6-2 playing, Wake at home on a Thursday, a bad Louisville team, a bad Carolina team, and a bad ECU team. Now, granted, all those teams are going to be jacked up to play us. And they're not sure wins because, again, we need to be more realistic that these games are probably a little closer to 50-50, despite how good we think we are. But they are winnable games, and will likely be favored in all those games. So let's jump on FSU. Let's go out there and win, and let's everybody have a good time and enjoy this season while we can, man. I mean, I think there's a lot left to play for. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of feeling good about if you're a State fan. So let's do it. Hope to see everybody Saturday. If you see us, see me, I'm going to say hi. And I will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening. Go Pack.
it on the level. Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the. Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the ladder while you bring me up a shovel. I can do this all day. I can do this all night. I can do this all day. I can do this all